Hi everyone, welcome back. Last video we had a discussion on NCERT 10th Standard History First Lesson Nationalism in Europe First Part. In this video, we'll cover the topics making of nationalism in Europe, liberalism, Treaty of Vienna, etc. Let's see the first part, the making of nationalism in Europe. No nation state were in Europe because of not common identity or culture. People residing in different areas spoke different languages. Germany, Italy, and Switzerland were divided into kingdoms, duchies, and cantons. These divisions were having their autonomous rulers. Eastern and Central Europe were under autocratic monarchies, within the territories of which lived diverse people. They did not share any collective identity or common culture. Let's see one example. Habsburg Empire. The Habsburg Empire that had its rule over Austria-Hungary was composed of different regions and people. It included Alpine regions, Tyrol, Austria, Sudetenland and Bohemia. In these, the aristocracy was German-speaking, but it included the Italian-speaking provinces of Lombardy and Venetia. In Hungary, half of the population spoke Magyar, while other half spoke a variety of dialects. In Galicia, aristocrats spoke Polish. Even the peasants that lived in these areas were from different ethnic groups. So we can easily understand that there was nothing common among these groups. The only common thing was that they had loyalty to the common emperor. Then, how did nationalism and the idea of nation state emerge? Now, let's see the organization of society at these places. Socially and politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class. What were the features of this aristocracy? They owned estates in the countryside and also townhouses. They spoke French for the purpose of diplomacy and in high society. Their families were often connected by ties of marriage. The aristocrats were the dominant class in Europe. The members of this aristocracy had a common way of life. They were the owners of estates in the villages and also big houses. They spoke French. Their families were connected by ties of marriage, but they were small in number. The major population comprised of peasants. During this time period, the western parts and central Europe experienced industrial growth. There was growth of towns and a group of commercial classes emerged. They were a working class population and middle class made up of industrialists, businessmen, and professionals. It was among the educated middle classes that idea of national unity following the abolition of democratic privileges gained popularity. Now, let's see what did liberal nationalism stand for. What is the meaning of the word liberalism? The term liberalism derived from the Latin word liber. What is the meaning of liber? Liber means free. The term liberalism derived from the Latin word liber meaning free. It was an ideology that stood for freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. During the early 19th century, the idea of nationalism and liberalism were closely related. For the new middle classes, liberalism stood for freedom of the individual and equality of all before the law. They stressed for the government elected by the people, Since the French Revolution, liberalism had stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges, a constitution and representative government through parliament. 19th century liberals also stressed the inviolability of private property. Though people were granted with equality before the law, still, right to vote or suffrage was not granted equally to all citizens. In France, the right to vote was not given to everyone. Only men with property had the right to vote. Men without property and women were excluded from this. There was equality before law, but there was no universal adult franchise. Then what is the meaning of liberalism in economic front? Economically, liberalism stood for freedom of market, end of state restrictions on the movement of goods and capital, creation of unified economic territory, allowing unhindered movement of goods, people and capital. In the economic sphere, liberalism stood for freedom of market and abolition of various types of taxes on the movement of goods and capital. The freedom of markets and abolition of state imposed restrictions was a huge demand made by the new middle classes. Let's see the German speaking regions in the first half of the 19th century. There were 39 princely states in this region during the first half of the 19th century. Each state had its own currency and weights and measures. If a trader was traveling from Hamburg to Nuremberg in 1833 to sell his goods, he had to pay a custom duty of 5% at 11 custom barriers. Duties were levied according to the weights or measurement of the goods. Each region had different standards of weights and measures, so it took a lot of time to calculate the duty. For example, the cloth was measured in LA, which was different in each region. All this led to the demand of creation of unified economic territory by the various business classes so that there could be smooth movement of goods, people and capital from one region to another. This demand resulted in the formation of a custom union or zollverein. What is zollverein? A custom union. It was formed in 1834. Prussia took the initiative to form it and most of the German states joined. It was formed to abolish tariff barriers which was hindering movement of goods, people and capitals. The economic nationalism also strengthened the nationalist sentiment during that time. While so many changes were taking place in Europe, one more thing happened that made governments to work towards the philosophy of conservatism. What is conservatism? Conservatism is a political philosophy that stressed the importance of tradition, established institutions and customs, and preferred gradual development to quick change. Conservatives believed that established traditional institutions of state and society like the monarchy, the church, social hierarchies, property and the family should be preserved. Now, let's see the Treaty of Vienna in 1815. Napoleon Bonaparte, who had earlier acquired major parts of Europe, was defeated in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. This battle was fought between Napoleon and Britain, Austria, Russia, Prussia. That is, easily you can remember this BARP, BARP. Waterloo was fought between Napoleon and BARP countries, that is Britain, Austria, Russia and Prussia in 1815. So when Napoleon was defeated, European governments decided to establish conservative form of government. So representatives of the European powers, that is Britain, Austria, Russia and Prussia, in 1815, they had defeated Napoleon collectively and wanted to draw up a settlement for Europe. So the Congress was hosted by Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. The delegate drew up the Treaty of Vienna of 1815 with the object of undoing most of the changes that had come about in Europe during the Napoleonic War. Let's see the terms of Treaty of Vienna. The Bourbon dynasty, deposed during the French Revolution, was put back in power. The territories annexed by Napoleon were taken back from France. To prevent any future expansion of France, a series of states were set up on French boundaries. Kingdom of Netherlands, including Belgium, came up in the north, while Geneva, along with Piedmont, placed in the south. Some new territories were given to Prussia. Austria got control of northern Italy, but the German Confederation of 39 states that had been set up by Napoleon was left untouched. The main intention was to restore the monarchies that had been overthrown by Napoleon and create a conservative order in Europe. That was their main intention, to restore the monarchies that had been overthrown by Napoleon and create a new conservative order in Europe. What were the features? What was the quality of that conservative regimes? What was the nature of that conservative regimes that set up in 1815? They were autocratic regimes. Conservative regimes set up in 1815 were autocratic. They did not tolerate criticism and dissent. They imposed, most of these conservative rulers imposed censorship laws also. This led to many revolutionaries. As a result of that, many revolutionaries went underground. Secret societies sprang up in many European states to train revolutionaries and spread their ideas. Let's see one such individual, that is Joseph Mazzini. Who was Joseph Mazzini? He was an Italian revolutionary. Joseph Mazzini was born in Geneva in 1807. He became a member of the secret society of Carbonari. He founded two more underground societies, Young Italy in Marseille and Young Europe in Bern. So Mazzini believed that God had intended nations to be natural units of mankind. So Italy could not continue to be a patchwork of small states and kingdoms. It had to be forged into a single unified republic within a wider alliance of nations. This unification alone could be the basis of Italian liberty. Mazzini's relentless opposition to monarchy and his vision of democratic republic frightened the conservatives. As a result of that, Metternich described him as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. Now, let's discuss some questions and answers related to this topic.